for those of you who are not from New York, I guess, Tyne, you were born here, or were you not originally, because of the acting family, was your family from New York?
Mostly, I was born in Madison, Wisconsin, but
Okay.
I stayed a month.
Most-
I said, are you
yeah.
people crazy?
Right.
Get me to Broadway. My dad was understudying right after
Right.
New York, and myself and my mom and my big sister came shortly after I was.
So for the rest of you who may not have been from New York originally, how did you first end up here? And then if you can pinpoint, what was that first break that sort of allowed you to begin your careers on Broadway? And I guess we'll start with you, Sutton. You have a kind of a amazing, sort of the classic story, don't you?
Yeah. I was born in Georgia. My family moved to Michigan. I had never even, the first time that I came to New York City was when I was 17 for a callback for the national tour of the Will Rogers Follies. They had actually come to the Detroit area, and it was right after the Tonys that year. And my mom was like, you should go. And I was like, why are they in Detroit? This doesn't make any sense. So I went downtown, auditioned, and they sent me to New York for a callback, and I had a callback for Tommy Tune and Cy Coleman, and then I ended up doing the first national tour of the Will Rogers Follies when I was 17. But my big break happened. That was a big break. I got my equity card, and then my big break happened with Thoroughly Modern Millie, which was in 2001. I was originally cast as the understudy out of town in La Jolla, California, and then took over the role and then played it on Broadway, and my career completely changed.
Yeah. Idina, where were you originally from, and then how did this begin?
Well, I grew up in Long Island, so I wasn't very far, and my parents would bring my sister and myself to see shows all the time. A lot of times they'd bring us in our PJs, which I think is kind of disrespectful now, but I think they didn't want to deal once they drove home.
Getting you back to
just
the
carry us
kitchen.
and put us in the bed. I know I saw Dreamgirls in my PJs, and perhaps Bob Fosse dancing. Do you remember that? Which is kind of a sexy show to bring two little girls to. And Peter Pan. Those were the first. But what was the question? I don't even.
No, well, just I guess so that first opportunity to be on Broadway. How did that come about? What were the circumstances?
Oh, I was a wedding and bar mitzvah singer at a very young age. My parents split up when I was about 15, and I got a job singing with Tony Saida and the Echoes from Oceanside, New York, and I knew about 5 songs, and every weekend I would learn as many more as I could. I knew Evergreen and Girl from Ipanema, because you have to know a bossa nova if you're going to show up there, and I knew Greatest Love of All, and anyway, so I was doing that, and then for years, through college, on and off, and that's how I paid my rent, and no pun intended, January and February is the deadest time of year for weddings in this area, so someone. Actually, I don't know that. Yeah, sorry. I had a friend who worked at an agency, and he submitted me under the table. He didn't, his agent wasn't interested in me, and I got an audition for Rent, and I just thought it was going to bide my time till the next bar mitzvah, and then ended up being Rent.
Amazing.
Wow.
Great.
So it was Rent?
Yeah.
Wow, right off the bat. And then LaTanya,
I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia girl. And, there's actually a New York Times article where I talk about this. I was doing a play. There was a guy named Jim Way who was the director of the Alliance Theater there. And my senior year of college at Spelman, he said, I'm going to get your equity card because you should be working. And he did. He put me in The Best Man with E.G. Marshall and Kevin McCarthy and Victor Jory. And they were friends with Joseph Papp. And he was coming through town. He saw us and he said, you should come to New York. Now, being the country bumpkin that I was, even though I thought I was quite eruditious and aristocratic, I said, I went to New York and went to the public theater and said, Mr. Papp sent for me. They said, what? I said, it was Rosemary Tischler and Mary Calhoun. Do you all? Never mind. Anyway, Rosemary
Talk amongst
Tischler,
yourself.
Mary Calhoun, were the casting directors. They said, he sent? I said, well, he told me to come. And the next thing I knew, I was doing the first national tour for Color Girls.
oh my God. Wow. And
But it was off Broadway. This was not Broadway to me. I had no designs really on Broadway. It was all singing and no black people.
and then Broadway came along with Joe Turner.
With Joe Turner.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jessie.
I'm from Chicago originally, like just outside, and my folks are actors, and my brother and all my brothers and sisters are actors. So that was sort of the world I knew. I actually didn't really. I always feel bad when people say like, well, what was your Broadway memory or your? I don't really have them. My idea of what Broadway was like from a textbook or like pictures of Mary Martin, or you know what I mean, like people in feather boas in dressing rooms, like that. That's sort of what I didn't have any concept of like what modern Broadway is. So I went to school at Syracuse University and then came back to Chicago and started working there. That's what I wanted to do. That was my dream, I guess, and work with the people I grew up watching there, and I got to do that, and I was there for I guess 5 or 6 years, and then I auditioned for a revival of On a Clear Day You Can See Forever with Harry Connick Jr. that they were doing, and I actually ended up auditioning in Chicago. Somebody put my name in a list, and I still don't know who it was or how it happened. And I went and I auditioned for Jim Carnahan, and he said, "Can you come back tomorrow?" And I said, "Oh, I can't. I'm doing a reading." I was like, for a friend, I was like, "I don't think I can get out of it." He was like, "Okay, can you fly yourself to New York next week?" And I said, "Yes, I can do that.
Wow.
I can do that." And then I just kept auditioning, and I think at one point during the process, they said, "Well, this other person we're interested can't do this week-long workshop. Do you think you can get there?" And I was in a show at the time, and they were gracious, and they let me out, and I had to like sort of end my contract there to sort of go chase this. I don't know what would happen, and the team on Clear Day kept fighting for me, and that's how I came here. I mean, it's a very unusual story. That's how it happened.
Kelli, how about you?
It's kind of what you don't know that helps you, I think. I sang that when I was 10, but I really did mostly sports and things like that through high school and did the school plays or whatever, but I didn't think of this as an option for a career because nobody where I'm from thinks of it that way. I remember when I told people I was moving to New York, they wanted to know, well, what's your job? Where are you going to live? And, well, I'm just going to take my suitcases. I don't have one. What, are you crazy? Kind of thing. I did come here and started working relatively quickly. And I did a couple of Broadway shows that were fast and ended quickly. I think my first thing, though, that kind of maybe, I guess you'd say, made people take notice and led me to things like Light in the Piazza was a production of a new show called Sweet Smell of Success, which stinks. No, I'm kidding. It's just, it ended up closing very quickly, unfortunately. But it was what I didn't know is how I got the job. I didn't study musical theater. I studied opera in college, and so I didn't know people, what they looked like Marvin Hamlish and things. So when I crashed the audition for Sweet Smell of Success because I had a friend who told me about it and said the role would be right for me. And it was on my lunch break from another show, so it was on their lunch break. So when I knocked on the door, nobody was there except for Marvin Hamlish and Nick Heitner and Craig Cornelia, but I didn't know who they were. Wow. And so I remember Marvin saying, well, I'm going to have to play for you. Our pianist is at lunch. And I was kind of like, well, you'll do. Like, I didn't know. I didn't know if he was and it was because I didn't know that I got through the audition in a way that I guess impressed them or whatever, and I ended up getting the job, and that was my first kind of big role on Broadway.
And then you're saying the next step would have been Light in the Piazza.
Yeah, I did one other show between, but Light in the Piazza came because of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Can I
Tyne,
chime in on this for a minute?
please, yeah.
Because in the idea that, that there's a big break that you get. I've always sort of poo-pooed that idea. I was born in a theatrical family, and I went in the family business, and you just did the work. Yeah. But I've amended that a little bit because I think that my break to get back to Broadway was actually being on television. I've been an actress for 15, 17 years, in Los Angeles, doing enough jobs, but I had left New York because my young husband had a career in the West, and I had a baby and all that stuff, 2 babies then. But because I got famous on television at the late age of 34, I mean, you're supposed to leave town after 30 in LA. And because all the big girls had turned it down because they didn't want to do 8 a week. They'd approached a lot of very famous singers and actor-singers to do the 30th anniversary of Gypsy. But because I had a following on TV, they took a chance and put me, on the stage in a musical. Nobody thought I could do it except for me. which was really kind of fun, because then I got to surprise everybody.
Absolutely.
But I think there was a break, which, as I say, I didn't used to believe in, but it was a break that came after a long time of already being a professional actress.
And I think you have, well, in my experience, I've had more than one break because I went into obscurity for a while, and you have these ebbs and flows of a career, and Rent was this amazing first professional job I had, but then for whatever reason, I went and made an album and it didn't sell, and I didn't take all the TV opportunities that might have been there at the time because I wanted to do my music, and I was stubborn, and all of a sudden a couple years go by and nobody really gives a shit. And so then you have to just stay around, stay in it, and wait for another break to happen.